solution which worked for the person and helped the person. And as a result, because they remained calm, the other person, their anger would dissipate, and they're able to come up with a mutually beneficial resolution. Because it wasn't their fault that the customer was angry, but it was their ability to respond to that situation which governed the output. So instead of it ending up as an angry shouting match and the customer storming off unhappy, they were able to resolve the situation, and the customer left either happy, or at the worst, the customer left having had their situation resolved, but they weren't angry anymore. That's the key thing. I find that I work in I do some work in retail, sometimes working with customers, and I do it as a part-time job because it's good fun and it gets me out and about there. And it's reached the point now where the managers, if a customer comes up with a complaint, some of the managers will actually get me to go and speak to the customer, even though I'm nowhere near managerial level, simply because I've got the same approach. Because I'm managed to eliminate my anger issues, means I have the ability to respond to that customer, even though the customer may be shouting or really angry, whatever. I have the ability to diffuse the anger from the situation, to make sure the customer feels heard, to make sure the customer feels appreciated, and above all, to help get a satisfactory resolution for the customer. And 9 times out of 10, the customer leaves happy. Sometimes we end up even having a laugh and a joke before they leave. They end up happy with the situation resolved, and they're more than happy to come back again. I did say 9 times out of 10. Yes, there's 1 time in 10 where the customer is unhappy. Even when we resolve the situation, they're still unhappy that the thing happened in the first place. And hey, that's up to them. That's up to them. But it doesn't end up as a shouting match or anything. We still get a resolution. It's all about your responsibility. Nothing's your fault. When an angry customer comes in, it's not my fault. It's my ability to respond that governs the results that we get. Is this making sense? Maybe if you take a moment to pause and just think back over situations in your life where perhaps having the ability to respond in maybe a calmer or a more controlled manner might have got you a different, perhaps better result. Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? It's very interesting. And we can do this with any of the major negative emotions. I work with people around all sorts of negative major emotions, helping them to transform those, to eliminate the emotion around that, so that they can become much more confident in their abilities to respond and to generate much better results, because they take ownership of the situation. They place themselves at cause. They take responsibility. And you can too. You absolutely can too. Anger, I've mentioned anger a few times, mainly because that is the biggest problem that affects most people. There are other issues as well. And anger is pretty much always there. Whenever I'm working with someone around emotional issues and around these sorts of things, around behavioral issues, whatever it is, we'll focus on anger first. I mean, they may well say, no, I don't have anger issues. I don't have anger issues. We'll still work on anger issues. Anyone who comes to me will work. Well, I say anyone. Perhaps if the Dalai Lama came to me, I'd say, okay, yeah, you haven't got anger. We'll work on the next issue. But anyone else will work on anger. It actually is quite amusing. There was one person said this too. I said, okay, so we'll work on these. We'll work on anger first. They went, I haven't got any anger issues. No, that's okay. That's cool. If you have no anger issues, it'll only take a few moments for this one. So we'll go through anger first. And they then reacted angry. I said, look, I told you I haven't got anger issues. Oh, maybe I have. Because, hey, what's the worst that happens? If you remove the anger that you haven't got, then you haven't got any worse. There's always some trace of anger issues in there. I mentioned the Dalai Lama. That reminds me of a story of the Buddha, which I think really encapsulates what I'm attempting to describe here with fault and responsibility. I'll just share it with you quickly. You may have heard it, you may not. Either way, you're going to hear it now. So, way back in the past, the Buddha was teaching wherever he happened to be. He was teaching, and one day somebody came up to him and started getting really angry with him. How dare you teach all of this stuff? It's complete nonsense. It's absolute rubbish. It's very dangerous. And really going off on one, getting really, really, really annoyed and angry and shouting at the Buddha. And the Buddha just sat there calmly, listening to what the man said, smiling, and then watched as the man walked off once he unloaded all of his stuff, and then carried on with his teachings, completely unperturbed. This happened for several days in a row. Each day, the angry man would come up, really lay into the Buddha, really shouting at him, swearing, getting really angry, and the Buddha would just sit there calmly, not being affected by it at all. After several days of this, one of the other people said to the Buddha afterwards, "How do you do that? How do you remain calm? How does that man not make you angry?" And the Buddha looked at him and said, "Okay, suppose you come to me with a gift, and I don't accept that gift. I don't take the gift. I don't accept it. Whose gift is it? Who owns the gift?" And the man said, "Well, I guess I do." The Buddha said, "Exactly. Just because somebody's angry, comes to you and is angry to you, doesn't mean you have to accept anger. Doesn't mean you have to become angry. You can always respond in different ways." Now, yes, I get it's not always easy to do that. And again, that's why I love working with people around these things. It's all part of the work we do with confidence. Sometimes people will come to work with me, nothing to do with confidence. They just want help with particular behavioral issues. Every time this happens, I get angry and fly off the handle, and I don't want to do that anymore. Can you help me? Absolutely. Absolutely. And some of those can be very, very quick, very, very quick resolutions. You may have had this for many, many years, but it can be resolved almost in an instant. I mean, it's a classic example. For example, somebody, they're working hard at work every day. They come home, open the door, kids' toys are all over the floor. It's a complete mess. They get angry because they just had a really bad day, and that was the last straw, and they get angry. Next day, come home, open the door, see the toys on the floor, get angry. Next day, come home, see the toys on the floor, and the kids, they get angry. After a while of this, after this happens a few times over, that kind of programs the behavior in their mind. So they come home, open the door, see the kids, get angry. Even though maybe the toys aren't there, they start feeling angry because they've started to associate, because at some level their mind has started to associate coming home, opening the door, seeing the children with getting angry. And that starts to happen. That's not a very nice situation in which to be. And I've had clients before in that exact and in similar situations. They've kind of lost their ability to respond the way they'd like to. And we've got a couple of cool, fun processes that we go through. Completely changes the way that they react. And you can do the same. You can do the same. When you're in a situation, if you feel that you're starting to react in a way that's disempowering, maybe pause for a moment. Take a deep breath. I mean, that old advice about count to 10 before you answer, that really can help. Why? Because you're forcing yourself to delay for a moment or two before you answer, which can give time for transient negative emotions that are rising to rise, burn themselves out, and disappear in those 10 seconds. Doesn't always, but sometimes it can, and that can be a good start. Count to 10 and take a deep breath. right. And that can be enough to dissipate the emotion that's going on. Yeah, that doesn't work in every situation. And yeah, that's not necessarily an alternative to working with a coach. But it can at least be a start, right? And getting a start is good, yeah. And again, if it's more than that, if you really want to change some of these behaviors, if you've started looking back over your life now and thinking, you know what, it does seem that I've got some issues here. Every time that happens, I just kind of lose it and get angry. Or every time that happens, I just feel debilitated with sadness. Or oh, here's one. Many people will resonate with this one. I wonder if you've seen this situation, or if you felt this way before, dear listener. The colleague at work, and just for some reason, their voice grates on you so much. As soon as they open their mouth, you're going, oh, will you just shut up? And they could be the nicest person around, but just for some reason, it's just, yeah. Do you know anybody who's ever encountered that sort of situation? Again, any of that sort of thing. If you fancy, get in touch. We'll have a chat, explore the ways we can work together and help you completely conquer those. Go to theconfidencealchemist.com. Check out the stuff there. Get in touch through there. We can have a chat, explore how we could work together to help you conquer any of those things, to help you take control of your responsibilities. Because remember, nothing is your fault, but everything is your responsibility. It's how you respond which governs the results that you get. And you absolutely can control how you respond. You are in charge of all of your emotions. Nobody can make you feel anything. Nobody can make you feel anything. And I've before now, I've had situations where somebody has been trying to wind me up, trying to make me angry. And I've just decided, you know what? No, you're trying to make me feel angry. I'm just not going to buy into this game. I'm just going to feel absolutely fine. And yes, it can take some doing, but they wear themselves out in the end. And I just don't take it on. There were times in the past where I would have absolutely flown off the handle, but now it's just knock yourself out, get on with it. I'll still be here when you finish and when you're ready to carry on civilly. If that's the sort of thing that appeals to you, and that is a way in which you can respond, you have the ability to respond that way, we can work together and help you change your programming. We help you change your mind, change your life. One other thing I want to talk about here, and again, it comes under cause and effect, fault, responsibility, and so on. And it can be a great way of just seeing how and where you are on this sort of grand scale of cause, effect, fault, responsibility. And that is mistakes. Mistakes. Oh, yes. Every single one of us make mistakes. We all make mistakes. Everybody does. We always will make mistakes. It's just part and parcel of being human. We all make mistakes. That's life. That's not important. What is important, however, is what you do when you make a mistake and how you respond, particularly what you do when somebody points out that you've made a mistake. How do you respond in that situation? And this one was really, I was really reminded of this one a few days ago in a group on Facebook. Somebody did something, they said something, they made a mistake, and it was pointed out to them, very politely, it was pointed out to them what they'd done wrong. How do you think they reacted? Well, they rushed to blame anyone and everyone else for their mistake. They rushed to defend their mistake. They're pointing out, oh, it was an easy mistake to make. Anyone would have made that mistake. It was this person's fault. It was that person's fault. It wasn't my fault I made the mistake. Shouldn't blame me for making the mistake. It was an easy mistake to make. Anyone would have done the same in that situation. Really defending the mistake, blaming others, kind of really owning the mistake. Yeah, I made a mistake, but really owning the fact that it was a mistake and defending the fact that it's not their fault they made the mistake. not very empowering situation. Nobody was blaming them for making the mistake. It was